Hi and welcome to this DCP web tutorial. In today's tutorial we'll use a combination of GIMP to remove a background from a city, and we'll use DaVinci Resolve to replace that background with some sort of clouds or some sort of different skyline or different background image, a video actually. So let's open up our web browser. We'll go to Keyframe and we want to look for a city first. So we want to look for a picture of a city. So we want something that's going to be not too tricky to cut out. I think, in fact, let's have a look at. Let's use this one here. It's going to be a bit more difficult to cut out, but I think you'll learn something from that as well. So that's not a bad thing. So we'll download it at 1920 by 1109, and we'll click download. And then we want to look for a. What should we look for? So imagine, right? We're going to remove the background here, and then we could put clouds in the background, a video of clouds. We could put a video of maybe we do like a thunderstorm, some sort of storm, right? And we need to look for videos here. So we select videos and storm, and then we've got all these different storms. We want something like pretty cool. So maybe let's use this one here. It's quite dark, but it's okay. It's got like lightning and stuff in it. So we download this at 1920 by 1080. Let's download that one. So we've got two pieces of content. I'll open up this folder and I'll put links to these, the video and the image, in the YouTube description. We'll drag the image and we'll drag the video into here, and we'll close this. And let's open up GIMP first. So we'll drag the picture. It's Kuala Lumpur. So it's like these buildings, right? And we want to right click here and add an alpha channel. So on this layer here, we'll right click, add an alpha channel. Then we'll right click and we'll duplicate the layer, and we'll hide the bottom one. So just click on the eye to hide the bottom one. And then we're going to right click and we're going to add a new layer. So new layer here. And we'll make that layer white. So fill white and click OK. And then we'll hide that layer as well for now. So all we've got is a top layer, and then we're going to go to our brush tool. In the brushes, you want to select this brush, the rectangle brush, this one right here, and then you want to set the angle to 90 degrees, and you can change the size of the brush, but we want it to be rectangle like this. I don't know if you can see that. You can probably see it here, and that allows us to erase quite big chunks of this background quite easily. And the reason why I picked this particular brush, or this particular size and shape of brush, is because a lot of the buildings are straight edges, right? Buildings tend to have a lot of straight edges. So this tool, or this brush, is kind of ideal for getting rid of a lot of this background. And we can do this quite quickly. So we'll do a rough background removal, and then we'll try and get as much of it out as possible, and then we'll come back in and do some final work afterwards. So while we're doing this, there's always a golden rule, right? We should really be saving our work as we go along. So what we'll do quickly is go to File, Save As, and we're going to call this city-01. Save as a GIMP file, so just File, Save As, and click there and save it. And we want to make this brush a little bit smaller so we can get in between this building. That's probably worth zooming in a little bit. And the reason why we created this, let me zoom out a little bit more. So the reason why we created this white background is when we come in to do finer detail, if we enable the white background, we're able to see our brush much clearer now, right? The shape of it. If you hide the background, then it's really hard to see on this transparency layer. So we enable the white background when we need it, and then we can see, but we need to make sure we click on this the top image, right? If you click on the layer below the white image and you start deleting stuff, then you're deleting the wrong content. So you can undo that if you've done that, and make sure you click on the top layer, because when we're deleting, we only want to delete what was in the this sky background. So we hold down, you can use the middle mouse wheel to move the canvas around. So on your mouse, you've got a left and right mouse button, and you've got the mouse wheel in the middle. but that's a button as well. So if you hold that mouse wheel down, you will be able to pan the canvas like this. Hold down the control key on your keyboard and then pick a location and then use the mouse wheel to zoom in on that location. So we'll zoom in like this, and you don't have to be like super accurate here. We'll set like, because this building is quite far away in the distance, it doesn't really matter if you're deleting some of the building, right, too much. But obviously you don't want to delete big chunks of it, but you could. This is why this tool is really good, because you can go down the side of a building quite quickly and clean it up. Like you can just click here once, click here, and get rid of a lot of that background very, very quickly. So we should probably set the hardness to 100%, and that will stop this like fading on the edge. And then we'll be able to undo that bit. And we'll come in a bit closer afterwards and just tidy up around here. But it's nice that you can just do like whole sections pretty quick. Let's finish down here. So when we're getting closer to the bottom, we want to resize it. So if you're finding this extremely boring, then what you can do is fast forward this video, and if you know how to do this already, then you can just move straight to the DaVinci Resolve part. But if you're interested in removing this background and finding out how to do that clean, then continue watching. So it takes time, and every so often press Ctrl S on your keyboard to save your work. So after you've done a section like that, if you're not sure what it's going to look like, you can zoom out a little bit and then you can see, and that should be fine actually, because when we put our other background in it, we could smooth it out a little bit, I guess. What we could do is reduce the hardness. So the hardness gives like feathering, yeah? It's like feathering, so it won't delete all the pixels, it will just change the color slightly and just smooth things out like this. It won't look so jagged, right? Something like that. I'm sure if you spend more time, you can probably do a better job, but I don't want it to take too long. So in between here, let's set the hardness to full again and get rid of all this. It should be fine. Let's increase the size. So it's a bit too big. Increase the size. Come around here. Inside of here, we have to think about that afterwards. Maybe we won't even remove that. I don't think we need to really, but we'll come back to that. we'll come back to this part at the end. We'll worry about cleaning that up afterwards. Let's just get the bulk of it done. It's probably worth feathering this a little bit. Say it's around 80. It's a bit too high. Let's set it around 90. Okay, so we'll continue. And like I said, if you're getting bored, feel free to fast forward. You can see what I'm doing. It's just removing the background here. Sometimes it's worth changing the direction of the brush. You can just set it to 180 so it's horizontal instead, and then you can just do like tops of buildings quite quickly that way. You can see you still use the same brush. So I'm either setting the brush to 90 degrees or 180. Either one will work, and then it might be a bit easier to do tops of buildings because they're quite flat, right, in this sort of shape. But down the sides it's much easier to do it at 90 degrees. You can get rid of them a lot more quicker. Don't worry about too much if you get rid of some parts of buildings. It's not that important. You still want it to look like a building, right? So if you get rid of a few windows or I wouldn't worry about it too much. But where you can keep in some detail, like here there's two posts, right? Or two bits sticking out from the top here. Try and retain that sort of stuff if you can. sometimes it's not clear what is actually background and what is building, so just try and cut something out that looks like a building shape and just make it look a bit like the building itself, right? It's not going to matter too much. So let's create a bigger size. And then we'll rotate this 180. Needs to do this bit here. Set this back to 90. Reduce the size. You could even remove down here, but I think it'll be fine. I don't think anyone's going to notice. So a lot of this is done now, right? We've done a pretty good job. We need to sort out around the top here, so let's just tidy this up a little bit. Now we're going to change the brush to a circle brush. We'll use this one here. It's going to be pretty big, so we want to reduce the size so it's quite small, and then we'll zoom in here. We can go around the top of this black ball thing at the top here, right? It's like some rounded shape here. Something like that would do. Literally, you could spend hours on this. I'm not going to spend too much more time, but you could spend a lot of time just cleaning around the edges and just making it look perfect. But I think that is pretty good. So we'll go to File, Save As, and we'll save it as a version 2. Let's just save it as second, but I like to save versions just in case I want to come back and do some other stuff to it. So really what we should do is probably just double check that there's no pixels that we missed. So if we click on the white layer, and then we'll go to the bucket tool, and we can pick a different color like this cyan color. So we'll just go into here, we'll drag our mouse to the top left here and just pick a blue color, right? Any sort of blue would do. And then we can fill the white background with blue, and then you might notice some pixels as you zoom in, any sort of pixels that you might have missed. But this looks pretty good. This looks okay. So what we'll do now is hide this layer. So this cyan layer or this blue layer, we'll hide it, and we want to duplicate this layer here. Let's save this work. We'll click on the move tool for now, and we'll right click here and duplicate. So let's just duplicate the layer. Now we've got two of the same layer, we've got two of these cut out background layer. We'll click on the one behind and we'll enable the scion temporarily, or this blue color, and we'll click on this layer, so the middle one right here, this one here, one above the blue, and we'll go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur. And the reason why we've got this blue background, it'll be easier to see the blur around the buildings, right? So we don't want too much of a blur. We want something like around 50%. Let's say around 50, probably a little bit higher. Let's do about 65, around 65, something like this, yeah? It's a bit hard to see, but there's like this blur around the edge of the buildings now. And then we want to click on the buildings themselves, so the very top layer. We'll go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and we're going to set that to a very low number. So something like 1, just 1, yeah? Just want to blur out these buildings. They're a bit too sharp, so we just want to blur them out a little bit. Maybe even like, let's try 0.5. Do a split view. We can see the difference. You can't really tell. Do like maybe 1 would be fine. Yeah, I think 1 will be fine. We can play around with this afterwards, but we'll leave it at 1 for now. In fact, before we do that, we should cancel here. Click cancel. So don't accept that, click cancel. Doesn't really matter too much at the moment, but we'll click cancel. And really we should keep a copy of this original layer that we cut out. So we should duplicate it one more time. So we duplicate it and keep an original, and we just drag that to the very bottom. So that's kind of like our copy, that if we ever want to do anything else, we can do that to that image. If you've already applied that filter, then remember you just saved your work as version 2, so you can just save it as version 3, and then you'll always have that original cutout. So that's if you applied the blur, but you can just press Ctrl Z if you did apply it to undo that. So we'll click back here on the top layer. We'll go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and we're just going to set it to 1 for now. Just set them both to 1. Click OK, and that will blur out the buildings a little bit. And we'll hide this blue layer. We'll hide the bottom layer, and we'll hide. In fact, we want to keep these two. These two we want to keep here. We'll go to File, Save As, and we're going to save it as version 3. And then we're going to go to File, Export As, and it should already be set as PNG file. If it's not, then in the menu here, go down and select PNG image, and we're just going to leave it as City 3, and we'll click Export. And when you click Export, make sure you untick Save Background Color, untick this one. Everything else you can leave as it is right here, and we'll click Export. Okay, we're pretty much done with GIMP now. So after that, we ended up with this City 03 image, which is with a transparent background with this blur and slightly blurred image at the front, and that will help when we create our DaVinci Resolve project. So let's click Resolve. We could have actually done the blur and stuff like that directly in DaVinci Resolve. That's another way to do that, but as we was using GIMP to cut the background, we thought we might as well do it in that step. But we can actually use Resolve to blur it and do stuff like that as well. Maybe we'll look at that at a different tutorial. So let's create a new project, and we'll call it City. Let's call it City. Let's think about this city. What was it? Storm. STR. City Storm. And we'll click New Project. So we'll click Create here. So we've got the new project here. We'll go to our media pool. In fact, let's go to media here, media, and we'll go to our C drive. I'm going to go to my desktop. My desktop here, and now I've got the project here, and I want to click on the City 03 and the Storm. These two I want. I want to drag them into here and click Change. So I've got the two images. I've got the image, and I've got the background. This Storm here. So let's go to Edit, click on this Edit tab, make sure Media Pool and Effects are enabled. So if you click on it, it will go white. You want to have it bright white, and you will see the Media Pool here and the effects down here. and we want to drag our what do we want to do? We want to drag the storm down here, and the storm, and then we want to drag the city on top here. And let's check the total duration is around 40 seconds. So 40 seconds should be, it's a little bit long, but it should be fine. Let's cut it down to something like 20 seconds, right? So as I drag across, I can look at there's two timestamps there. One at the top to tell you how much you're removing, and the one at the bottom to tell you what the duration will be. So this is now 20 seconds. So this is 20 seconds here, and we'll drag this across to here. And then the audio, I'm going to reduce it because it's quite loud actually. So let's reduce it a little bit. We're missing like some of the thunder, right? We can't really see that. So at this point here, I'm going to click on the media clip. So the video at the bottom, I'm going to click on it. We'll go to the inspector, and let's try and so the X is on the, so the Y is the vertical, right? So let's try and move the Y up. I moved it way too far, didn't I? But we don't want really the water in the background. We don't want to see this water. We want to set it to around here maybe, and then hopefully. What we might try and do, let's try. Don't want to rotate it. Let's undo that. I want to flip it over. It'd be nice if we can flip this image over. I'm not quite sure how to do that at the moment. Still kind of learning this software, but oh, look, flip, right? That's what I want you to do. Flip it here. Let's just try it this way around. Now you can see the lightning here, right? Because all this lightning stuff was behind this building, you couldn't see it. Okay, so really we're kind of done, but we can do a few other things in this this software as well. We can just have a little play around. So let's just save what we've done so far. Let's save the project, save it, and then we could do things like make this building zoom in and out. We can do something like that. So we can click on the building at the top, and then we can create a keyframe. So we'll click on this little white dot there, that creates one keyframe, and then we can go to the end of the keyframe or the end of the clip, and then click on the keyframe again, click here. So now we've got two keyframes, one at the start and one at the end. We can go back to the beginning and we can zoom just a little bit like this, and then when we click play, the building will be moving to the back quite slowly, but you see it moving. So you can do simple things like that. We could click on the sky in the background, and we could go to the first clip, and we could do something like zoom here as well, and we'll go to the end frame, click zoom, and then that one, let's try and zoom out a bit more so it's moving at a different pace to the buildings. And that's pretty much us done now, really. So let's file, save. We could take this into the Fusion editor and do some other effects to it, maybe we'll give that a little go. Let's have a little play around. So we'll select the content, all three elements. We can really just select the top two, and that will select the audio as well. We can right click and do new Fusion clip here, and then we can go to the Fusion editor here, and it will combine our clips and merge them together here. So if we click, when you click on this first one, the media in one, if you click on the left hand side here, this little dot right here, it shows you what is in that clip, and we can then right click and rename it to sky. Let's call it storm. Then if this is the storm, then this one down here has to be the city, right? So we can right click. I like to rename these in here because it's hard to remember what they are and what they're doing. And now you know for sure that the top one's the storm and the bottom one's the city. And then we could add like a glow to these buildings a little bit, right? So the bottom one is the city, so we can go to effects, color, let's go to light, and we can click on glow. So click on the city itself, then click on glow, and then you can play around with this glow effect. You can like add some glow to the city, like the lights are on, right? It's glowing. And what you could do is set it to quite a low value, like pretty much 0, close enough, something like this. You can go to the beginning of the timeline. So you've got a red cursor here. This is the timeline again. So we move to the beginning of the timeline. We will click on this button here to add a keyframe, and then maybe around frame 160, something like here, we'll click keyframe again, and then we can change this and make it glow more like this. So if we were to scrub through, now the city is moving forward, or it's moving backwards, but the glow will come in as well, so the city will start to glow. So that's just like a simple effect that we can add there. You can play around with a lot of these, right? Go experiment with them, see what they will do. You can click on the storm, for example, and you can play around with these, right? You could add particles. I'm not sure what these would do. I haven't played around with a lot of these. Smokestack, right? If we click on that, I can hold down the control key and zoom out a little bit. So I'm not really played around with these too much, but this is the smokestack, right? So in theory, zoom in a little bit. So this is the city, this is the storm. So the storm is the background. So we would want, I'm not sure how this works, I haven't played around with this too much, but I think we want to connect this to here, and then connect this to here, and then in fact I don't really know what I'm doing here, so I'm not going to play around with this. I'm just going to cut this here and cut it here, and we'll delete all this. I'm going to have to go and learn this stuff rather than just doing randomness and hoping for the best. It looks like that broke what I did. So let's see if we can fix that. Storm is here. See, I'm dragging this storm into the glow, but it shouldn't be there, it should be into the merge here. That's why we're not seeing the background. I was dragging the storm into the glow, but it should really be into the merge that merges into the media out here. That's why it wasn't working. So we can leave that one in the city here. Okay, I'll stop messing around with things I don't understand, and I'll go and learn them first, and then I'll show you how they work. I think that's a wiser move. Let's go back to edit. So we added this glow effect. Let's save our work file. save project. Let's go to, you can play around with the colors if you really want to. You can mess around with these colors and change like the colors here. I'll leave you to experiment with that. If you change a color in here and you don't like what you've done for whatever reason, so it looks crazy and you just hate that, just double click in the middle of all of these circles and it will reset back to normal. I'm just going to leave mine as it is, as default. We'll go to delivery and we will give it a name. So let's call it City Storm Video. And then we'll click on H.264. We'll set it to MP4. We'll browse here and we'll put it into this directory. And we'll call it City dash video City Storm dash video dash 01. Let's save that. We'll add it to the render queue and then we'll render this out. It shouldn't take long. That's that done. Close down DaVinci. Would you like to save City Storm before closing? Let's save it. And then we should have our City Storm video here. So that was quite a interesting project to build. Obviously it doesn't look completely amazing by any means, but we learned quite a few things there. So in GIMP we learned how to remove the background. Then in DaVinci Resolve we learned how to combine a still image and animate that image and put a completely different background or video animation into the background of that still image. So although this doesn't look completely amazing by any means, we learned some techniques and we learned some skills, and that's quite important. And then you can apply those skills to other projects later. You can experiment, and you could have had multiple images in here. You didn't have to have just the one building. You could have had loads of different things going. You could have the plane flying across the screen. You could have done all sorts, right? Because now you know how to crop those images out in GIMP. You can have multiple images on that timeline, and you can play around with all those images combined together. So this was quite a long project to work on. We did it in real time, so that's the way I like to do projects, show them as I'm doing them rather than doing these fast forward things and then you miss a lot of the steps that were involved. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that tutorial. It wasn't amazing by any means, but we learned a few things, and I look forward to seeing you on the next DCP web tutorial.